There is a word called disgruntled, and it does mean angry or dissatisfied. Not a word you often have to explain to people who work full-time for a living. They generally, at one point or another, will be disgruntled. So, comedians, of course, like to play along with language. That is a big thing we like to do. So could you be gruntled? You can. It is actually a word. It is, of course, the opposite of disgruntled. It means pleased or satisfied. And isn't that our ultimate objective? Now, I want to be a little bit careful here, because when a man approached Buddha and said, I want happiness, apparently the Buddha said, that is your problem. You cannot start with I want. Okay, this is making it very much about ego. We're not really supposed to aim directly for happiness. It's a byproduct. But it is tough to argue that we all want to be happy. I'm a diehard capitalist. I make no apologies for that. I think capitalism has created more wealth and lifted more people out of poverty than any force on earth. But one massive, massive, massive downside of capitalism is that it feeds on the human desire for more. We were just talking about this, bigger and stronger and faster and taller, and it has become the American way. You can never be content. Advertisers, I worked in advertising. I worked at Procter & Gamble in marketing. I started on the engineering side and product supply and went over to marketing, to the dark side. And American society, American advertisers do not want you to be happy, because how will they sell you anything, right? That's the whole thing. Keeping up with the Joneses is a cliche for a reason, and we're always looking up at what other people have. And that's the thing with this country that's different from a lot of other countries. Living in Cincinnati, anyone here from Cincinnati? Clap. Anyone? Okay, some Cincinnati folks, hooday. Some of my, hopefully, Bengals fans in the house, 1 and 4, I don't know, but we'll see where we go with that. But the thing is, you could live in Mason, Ohio, which is a very, great suburb, very high-end place. You could drive down I-71, you could go to the GO, and you could shop at Kenwood Town Center. In every single city across America is like this. You'll have your equivalents of the great suburb, the rich people's freeway, where the trains don't go over the streets, they go over bridges. That's how you know it's a rich suburb, Poor suburbs, it goes over the street. Otherwise it goes, the rich people, they don't have time to wait for the train, right? So it has to go under or over. It goes over your street, you're in a poor neighborhood. So that's how we live near a train, by the way. So I could say that in Burbank, and it does go right over the street. So you can go this way and go throughout your entire day, your entire week, your entire year without seeing anyone poor. It's true. We're very isolated in this country. My parents would say that ever since I came from India. We're isolated. I didn't know what that meant, because in India, it is not like that at all. It is not like that because everybody is together. A lot of countries in Asia are like this as well. I always like to say countries in Asia are like if you take all 3 Back to the Future movies and you jam them into one TikTok. Because you were simultaneously in the future, in the past, and the Wild West all at the same time. All right, because you will see next year's model of electric Range Rover driving down a dirt road in Mumbai trying to avoid hitting stray cows. I'm not making that up. That is true. That is not an exaggeration for comedic effect. You will have to live with people who are different from you, and it's easy then to go, oh my gosh, my life is hard, but it's not that hard, right? There's a comparative factor that exists in Asia that I feel does not happen here in many suburbs, not all suburbs, but a lot of suburbs in America. Another one is text messages are a constant stream of things. So I have a rule where when I get a ping, I reply to the text 2 before it, because you're going to get another text, right? What did Jerry Seinfeld say? He goes, when I was young, my mom would always scold me, say, you're going to ruin your appetite. When you become an adult, you realize there's another appetite coming right behind it. There's another one coming constantly. There's always going to be another text. And yeah, I might have changed the names here to impress you. But at any rate, yes, yeah, those aren't all real texts necessarily, but, it makes it interesting. So that's another thing that I do is I don't reply right away, because you get just sucked into all of these conversations on text and whatever else, and I make people wait a little bit. It is very, very rarely urgent. I mean, people will call you if it's urgent. I know the younger people in the room are like, you probably don't even know if your phone can make phone calls, because all you do is text. Like, calling without texting now is like, in our generation, it was the stopping by without calling. That's the new version of that. People would just pop by your house. People now will never dare call you without texting you first. But if it's that urgent, I think that they will do it. Now, applying for a job, this probably belongs more in the collegiate section than the pro section, but I thought this was interesting. This idea of trying to ask questions in an interview. Hopefully you retire in your current jobs and you're super happy, but if you're ever looking for another job, I posted this on Quora. I don't know how many people here know Quora. I think a lot of technical people are on Quora, so I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads right now. So Somebody had asked, what reply does the interviewer expect when he or she asks, do you have any questions for us? And I posted, the last 5 people who have held this position, where are they now? Hands down, the best question I've ever heard. I wish I could remember the source so I could attribute. Of course, if it's a new company or role, there may not be 5 people, but you get the point. I've now asked it myself a number of times, and it impresses the heck out of the interviewer, as it's almost always a stumper. From my perspective, nothing is more important than this information because it tells you where the role leads. I want to know if the last few people got promoted, were fired, changed departments, went back to school, or slept with the boss's spouse. Okay, I'm kidding on that last point, but seriously, what is more important than this? It has, what, 700,000 upvotes or views, I guess, 6,000 upvotes, 700,000 views. It really resonated with people because at the end of the day, isn't that the point? You want to know, where does this job lead? That's going to be really, really important. If everyone goes, yeah, they stayed in it for 30 years, they loved it, they retired, that's probably a good job, potentially. I sat down with a Hollywood producer, and she had such great advice, because I was going through the, what do I want to do with my life? What do I want to do with my life? And she goes, stop. She goes, don't ask yourself, what do I want to do with my life? Ask yourself, how do I want to spend my days? Because the first question is so crippling. It's just so overwhelming. Your life, that's a long time. But how do I want to spend my days? What do I want to do day after day? It's far more empowering. And she's getting to the concept of craft. Adapting your mindset, again, coming back to mindset. What I could have used at P&G, besides an assistant, was an attitude adjustment. I wish I would have heard this at the time because there's a comedian named Robert Hawkins, and he talked about this. He talked about how comedians will do stand-up for free. I would do this talk for free. I would do stand-up comedy for free. I love speaking in front of people. This is my favorite thing in the world to do. I love doing it. I do it for free. You're paying me for the travel. You're paying me for the opportunity cost, because right now I can't go on auditions, I can't write my packet that I'm submitting to the late night shows, I can't go do stand-up at the comedy clubs. I'm here and I can't be somewhere else. I want to be here, but he doesn't mean cover my travel. That's different, okay? Let's say there's a sack of money in the middle of the desert somewhere, okay? The Gobi Desert. How many dollars have to be in that sack for you to go get it, right? I'm gonna cover your travel. I'll pay for your flight, your meals, whatever, but if there's $5 in that bag, there's no way you're going, right? How much money has to be in that bag? Is it $5,000? Is it $15,000? Is it $50,000? And by the way, while you're there, here's a microphone, you can do a show. I'll do the show for free. That's not the issue. The issue is we all have jobs, and there are parts of the job that we love, and there are parts of the job that we don't love. And when I worked in marketing, I loved doing focus groups. It was so much fun. But I kind of hated doing my expense reports. I hate doing expense reports. And so you have to remember that you're getting paid to do the part of the job you hate. That's the way I started to think of it. I get to do this, because I remember saying to my roommate at the time, my roommate for 2 years in LA was Hassan Minhaj, if you can believe that or not. He lived with me for 2 years in Studio City, a little more than 2 years. And right before him was this aerospace engineer, Brett Northcutt, who was a white version of Hassan. They were both tall, big hair, very good looking, and my gay brother was like, what is up with your hot roommates? Can I move in with you? But Brett would say this to me too. I remember I said to him once, I'm like, I gotta go to the gym. He goes, don't say I have to go to the gym. You get to go to the gym. You get to go to the gym. You have the time, you have the money, you can afford it, you have working legs, and it's going to inform your entire workout. If you work that way, like I gotta do this, you're not gonna lift as much as if you go, I get to do this. So next time you're going through part of your job and you're like, man, I really don't like this, remember that that is why you get paid to do the job. Otherwise you would do that for free. I actually interned at Wright Pat Air Force Base. I was doing fatigue testing and creep testing and all that stuff, and creep testing took months to do. You weren't getting results. It was very linear. And for a lot of the job, I was quite bored. I gotta be quite honest. I enjoyed parts of it, but a lot of it was like, oh my gosh, what time is this? And Chris Rock talked about that, where he goes, there's a difference between a job and a career. When you have a job, there's too much time. When you have a career and you have all your projects, there's not enough time. You look down, you're like, it's 4 o'clock already? My gosh, I haven't even started. I just got out of my meetings. When you have a job, you're like, it's only 9:15. And I realized, though, the pain point for me was between 2 and 4 p.m., my speaking slot right now. That's why it's hard. I'm like, okay, after lunch, before this is a tough slot, right? But I was like, this is what's really difficult, is between 2 and 4. I realized in the morning I was fine. I'm more of a night person than a morning person, and night people have it better, right? Because your day gets better as it goes. Morning people, sorry, the best part of your day is over. Mine's just getting going, okay? Mine's getting going. It's getting better. But I realized the morning wasn't that hard. It was actually pretty interesting, the things we were doing. Lunch was fun, of course, and then we're leaving at 5 o'clock. So by the time you get to 4, you're fine. You have about another hour, 45 minutes, you're good. But between 2 and 4, I was dying. I was like, this is really tough. I'm like, okay, then at 2 o'clock, I'm gonna go to the vending machine, I'm gonna get a Coca-Cola, and at 3 o'clock, I'm gonna go get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And that got me through that period of 2 to 4. And I realized, I don't really hate my life. I just hate 2 hours times 5. I hate 10 hours of my life every week. And that made me go, oh my God, I don't have it that bad. I thought that was really, really helpful. It put me in a much, much better state. Okay, I'm going through this thing this year where I'm drinking for only 12 nights of the entire year. It's pretty difficult between like 6 and 8 p.m., but if I get to a party and it turns 9 o'clock, I don't really need to drink anymore. I'm done, I'm fine, I'm good. So I realized that if I could just maybe think of the day in parts, instead of saying, oh my God, I'm having a terrible day. No, maybe you had a terrible morning, but the afternoon doesn't necessarily have to be so bad.